Another quiet day in Tigers land with rumors continuing to swirl. We'll break some of those down as well as looking at our first set of 2025 player rankings all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen. Every single day, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the College Football Playoffs. The College Football Playoff is here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The College Football Playoff, presented by Allstate, begins with 4 first-round games, December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. No representation from the state of Michigan this year, but I cannot wait for the College Football Playoffs. Meanwhile, we have really not a lot of news in the Tigers baseball world. Hope everyone is having a great week so far. Happy Wednesday. We're going to bounce around and talk about a lot of smaller stuff today. That's kind of the point we're at in the offseason. There hasn't been a huge news story out of the Detroit Tigers in quite some time now. And so there's just a lot of smaller news and notes and more rumors, as we've kind of just become accustomed to, pretty much every day here. But there is some noteworthy things that I still want to discuss, and we're just going to kind of have a hodgepodge of an episode today of a lot of different smaller stuff to talk about. I want to start with an article that was put out by Evan Petzold of the Detroit Free Press, where he essentially, in the piece, in the report, it was highlighted that Alex Cobb was legitimately contemplating retirement after last season. And one of the quotes in the piece from Alex Cobb himself was that he was a little bit surprised by the interest. This frustrated a lot of people, because the Tigers were very aggressive, as earlier reported by Evan Petzold of the Free, in Alex Cobb, and he was like their number one starting pitching target outside of obviously Sasaki. And I understand the frustration. We just gave this dude $15 million, and he was thinking that maybe he would retire. The optics aren't great. That's really how that is the point of this. He's in his late 30s. He is coming off of an injury-riddled season in which he threw fewer than 20 total innings. He was contemplating retirement, and the Tigers made him their, number one target, number two target, I guess, again, behind Sasaki, obviously, amongst all starting pitchers, and gave him $15 million for a season, but gave him $15 million AAV. I understand the frustration, and I'm not going to get in the way of said frustration. I think when it comes to how I feel about it, I have a similar thought as I did when we talked about signing Cobb originally, which is just, I don't really care. Again, I understand the optics aren't good, and I'm, again, not trying to convince you that they are great. But if the Tigers still go out and somehow land Sasaki or sign Bregman or sign Taysar Hernandez or bring in like X, Y, and Z, right? Then nobody is going to care that they really wanted Alex Cobb, even though he was thinking about retirement. No one. You, me, your mother, my mother. Nobody is going to care. But right now, he's the only person the Tigers have brought in. He is the one signing. He is the like marquee signee, free agent of the winter so far, because he's the only one. So I get it. I really do. And I'm not here to tell you that you shouldn't feel that way or whatever. I'm just telling you how I feel about it. And that's that if we get to February and he is still the only person the Tigers have signed and they don't change anything else about the roster, then yeah, that report is only going to get more and more frustrating. And it's going to become more and more of a head scratcher as to why they were so aggressive and wanted so badly a guy that almost stopped playing baseball and hung up the cleats. I say almost, like I don't know how close he actually was. It's just, he thought about it at one point. I want to make that clear too. He wasn't like about to sign the paperwork to retire, then the Tigers swooped in. But it's to me again, it's just one of those things where like if they go out and are active and do other things, nobody gives a crap about this. We just have to talk about what we have in front of us. And trust me, if you think anyone in the planet understands that concept right now, it is yours truly. We only have to talk about what we have to talk about. I don't even want to have this conversation. But here we are because it very quietly and quickly became one of the bigger stories in the fan base over the last 48 hours. I just want other things to happen. I want bigger names to come in, and then nobody is going to care or remember about the fact that Alex Cobb, was maybe thought about retiring once upon a time. I still, and I've continued to reiterate, think that it's a pretty fine deal. A little expensive for sure. It's more money than I thought Alex Cobb was going to get, but it's 1 year, and clearly the pitching coaching staff that I trust pretty much with my life see something in him that they like. So let's see how it plays out. And that can apply to Alex Cobb's 2025 season, and it can apply to the remainder of the offseason. Let's see. Another starting pitcher that is in his mid/late 30s that was signed over the last few days was the Baltimore Orioles signing Tomoyuki Sugano. And I love this for the Orioles. And I understand that it may not have been the best thing for the Tigers' interest. I'm not saying I love this for the Orioles because I'm mad that he's not a Tiger. I just love stories like this. This guy's 35 years old and is one of the most decorated pitchers in Japan's history and has had a phenomenal career, had a sub-2 ERA last year at 34 years old. And the Orioles, really in my entire lifetime, to be completely honest with you, have been looking for starting pitching help. They have not had a really sound, top to bottom, good rotation really in my life. And so the fact that they are adding to that with international free agents that are very highly regarded, and Sugano gets a chance to come overseas and play in America before he hangs up the cleats, I think is awesome. So obviously not a long-term fit, not a guy that's going to be, I don't know. I mean, we saw Ichiro play until he was in his mid-40s, but, especially with a pitcher, probably not somebody that's going to play, deep in late into 10 years from now or through like the entire championship window, hopefully, if you're an Orioles fan. But a signing that I actually really respect, really like, and I think he'll be like solid, even if he's a back end of the rotation type of guy that has value. And I think that's good for kind of a short year deal for the O's. Let's talk about another player that has the interest of some Tigers fans that we actually talked about potentially being a Tiger earlier in the offseason. Taysar Hernandez, there are reports out there of what type of contract he is looking for. We'll talk about that and whether the Tigers should do that, as well as much more right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Select Quote. The World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play at these top level sporting events thanks to one thing, and that's teamwork. Teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all type of policies that may cost you more or less, that may cost you more and cover you less, rather, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor an insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. SelectQuote, they shop, you save. Get the right life insurance policy for you for less at selectquote.com/locked-on. Go to selectquote.com/locked-on today to get started. That's selectquote.com/locked-on. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back on Friday, as we are, of course, down to the part in the offseason where we only put out 3 episodes a week. Still 5 days a week over at Locked On Red Wings, as we are obviously in season there. But here, from now through January, we will be down to 3 episodes a week. Want to talk about Taysar Hernandez a little bit. Not going to spend too much time on this, but there is a couple of reports out there that he is looking for something in the 3-year, $22 to $24 million a year range. I think that if it was announced tomorrow that the Tigers gave Taysar Hernandez that contract and that he was going to be a member of the team, I would be pleased. I would be happy. The Tigers have such an astronomically low payroll that they can afford to pay like Juan Soto's contract and still be in the bottom half of baseball in terms of yearly salary, right? And that's why when people bring up like, oh, like you don't want another Javi Baez, we have a Javi Baez right now and have like the 4th lowest payroll in baseball. That's not hindering the Illiches from spending money. Very similar to the end of the Miguel Cabrera contract. Anyway, so if it was announced tomorrow that Taysar Hernandez signed a 3-year, $24 million AAV deal with the Tigers, I would jump for joy. That's a righty power bat outfielder, can DH as well. You know, you get a little bit of flexibility in there. I think that would be great. Do I think that the Tigers value Taysar Hernandez as a $24 million AAV over 3 years player? I absolutely do not. I think that is pricing him out of the Detroit Tigers range. And honestly, I don't think the Tigers were ever legitimate players for him. This is a conversation we had before free agency even opened about like maybe Taysar Hernandez being a fit. I still believe that the fit makes sense, as I just said, but I do not think that the Tigers are going to put that many assets and resources into a right-handed hitting outfielder when they already have 3 lefty outfielders that are going to play almost every day. So I think that if that is genuinely what he is looking for, I do not expect the Tigers to be players whatsoever. Alex Bregman. There are reports that Alex Bregman, as we pretty much have a Bregman segment on this show every single day at this point, it's now rumored that the Yankees, the Red Sox, and new team, the Mets, are all in on Bregman. The first 2 teams we've known about for a long time. Now the Mets are in on him. I would say that's probably discouraging to the narrative that Bregman's going to be, might be a Tiger. I've been saying on this show for weeks now that he's not going to be a Tiger. I don't think he is going to be, but I'm holding out some sort of magical fairyland type of hope. I think that leaves when the Mets or Dodgers walk in the door, and like Yankees, I guess, to an extent too. Right? Like if the bidding war is between those 3 teams, the Tigers probably haven't talked to Boris about Bregman in like 3 weeks. That's how I feel. And I don't know that to be true. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Tigers threw out 250 mil and are like, hey, like we're the leader. We're going to get him whatever. We'll see when he signs. But the second that you start talking about Yankees, Mets, Dodgers being in the mix on somebody, I think that the Tigers are probably going to take a back seat, which is frustrating because they don't need to. They shouldn't. Illich is just as rich as the richest owners, sans Cohen, who's just kind of in a league of his own in terms of wealth and like net worth in all of baseball. He has been for a long time. Illich is one of the richest owners in the sport. There is no reason that we should have one of the 5 lowest payrolls in baseball in 2025. But that's how I think this is being run. Whether you want to blame Illich, whether you want to blame Harris, I'm not sure. I'm not in those rooms. I don't know who's making those final decisions, and if Harris really wants him, and Illich is saying no, too much money, or if I don't know, if by some wild pigs are flying in the sky chance Illich really wants him and Harris doesn't. I have no clue. I would lead to believe that it's the former, obviously, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But once the Mets get in a bidding war with you, I really don't think the Tigers are going to be in a position where they want to go toe-to-toe with the Mets in terms of bidding on really anybody, no less one of the premier third basemen in baseball. The Tigers did, however, make a signing over the last couple of days. They signed Brian Seren. This is reported by Aram Lighton, by the way, of Just Baseball, former Locked On employee. Shout out the dog, Aram Lighton. Absolute king. We love Aram here. And yeah, this is a depth signing. Like, I don't have too much to say. This is a catcher that does not hit very well and got a minor league contract with an invite to spring training, a non-roster invitee, actually, to spring training. And I don't expect him to, he's not going to make the team out of camp. I can't imagine that he makes the team over, Dylan Dingler, and obviously he's not going to over Jake Rogers. I think that this is a catching depth thing. One thing that I give Scott Harris a lot of credit for is, and this is not flashy, this is not, huge, this is not game breaking, this doesn't win or lose you championships, but it's between the margins type of attention that I really appreciate is his catcher depth. In the entire Scott Harris era, he has gone out every offseason and brought in multiple minor league free agents, filled the 40-man, right? Like Donnie Sands was on there for a while. He has been very particular about making sure that there is catching depth in the organization, which I think is absolutely vital to a healthy and a healthily run organization in today's day and age, and really in any age. But I do appreciate that. And this is just another one of those. So are the chances that he even plays a Major League Baseball game for the Tigers over 50%? No. This is, again, a catcher that doesn't hit very well. But it's another minor league signing that can help the catching depth, which is always important. Does it move the needle or win you a ton of games at the Major League level? No, it will not. And that is the move that we are all obviously waiting for. Before we head into segment 3 here, I think the biggest complaint or concern, maybe is the better word, that I've heard from the fan base so far this offseason is just that it is quiet. It's been a very quiet offseason so far for the Tigers. And what my level of concern is, there is still a lot of talent left on the board. And there are still a lot of things that the Tigers can and will do. Alex Cobb will not be the last major league move they make all winter. Now, I can't promise you that they're going to go out and get a, high-end, game-changing player. It might be more, similar to Gio Urshela last season or Mark Hanna. It might be more players like that. But they will make more moves. And there's still a ton of talent out there that fills needs for the Detroit Tigers. So it is not just simply, we haven't signed really anyone outside of Alex Cobb on December 17th. So this is just it. And this is the offseason. My level of concern, however, is not nothing either. And the reason for that is it's kind of like a checks and balance thing in my head, right? When I want to feel more optimistic and want to give myself a little bit of hope, whether it's false hope or not, I tell myself that it's still pretty early in the offseason and that a lot of stuff could still happen and that there's a lot of talented players out there. But when I am in a pessimistic mood or when I'm thinking about why, the opposite of all of that, it is the fact that this front office hasn't really shown the fan base that they have the ability to be super aggressive in the winter. That they haven't really been aggressive in years. The last time they were aggressive was Erod and Javi Baez in the same offseason after 2021. That didn't work out very well, and they haven't been very aggressive since. They certainly haven't been uber aggressive in an offseason since Scott Harris took over in terms of what talent they're bringing in. So I am cautiously optimistic, or maybe I'm cautiously pessimistic. Actually, I'm not really sure what word to use to describe my emotion there, but I hope I'm portraying it at least how it's coming across in my head. Like there are good and bad things to take out of what has happened so far. The good is that there's still plenty of time and players out there. The bad is that in 3 years, we don't really have a sample size to prove that they're going to go after anybody really aggressively the rest of the winter. So we'll see what happens. I want to talk about player rankings. Kind of a fun thing. We'll end the show on that. Fangraphs released their top 100 players in baseball based on projected stats in 2025. And there's a couple of Tigers on there. We'll talk about all of that right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place all of your bets. Just visit fanduel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. It's fanduel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, everybody, welcome back. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. Want to talk a little bit about Fangraphs player projections for the 2025 season. Slowly but surely, Fangraphs, who always does such a fantastic job of off-season content. They have, Zips projections. They have their Steamer projections, which I'm not a huge stat projection guy. I would much rather look at numbers that have already happened and actually existed in the world than look at projected numbers. But I do understand the value of projected numbers, and plenty of those formulas use, obviously, stats that have happened in previous years. But every year, Fangraphs comes out with the top 100 players in baseball based on those projections for just the 2025 season. So this isn't like who you're building around or who, value-wise in terms of age or whatever. This is just strictly who Fangraphs believes, according to their formulas, is going to have the best 2025 season. No surprise to anyone, Shohei Ohtani is #1. He might be close to #1 if he was just a DH again, based on what we saw this past season. Certainly, if he is pitching again, this is pretty much a no-brainer. Gunnar Henderson, #2, Aaron Judge, #3, Bobby Witt Jr., #4, Juan Soto at 5, Paul Skeens at #6, the highest pitcher on the list. I guess Ohtani technically, but again, you get the point there. #7 in the division is J-Ram over in Cleveland. So, the first thing that jumps out at me here, is honestly Paul Skeens. And he is a generational talent. He is unbelievable. I think he deserved Rookie of the Year. He would have been my vote for Rookie of the Year. An opinion that I saw online during the whole, who's going to win NL Rookie of the Year debate was happening. And I have no clue which account put it out there, so I apologize. I'm not able to give credit. This was, months ago. But it essentially, it was The opinion was if Paul Skeens doesn't win Rookie of the Year this year in the National League, you are essentially saying that no starting pitcher ever can win the award. Because how many rookie starting pitchers are ever going to have as good of a season as Paul Skeens had, albeit not in a full opening day to game 162 season? And the fact that we are going to get that next year, assuming his own health, is unbelievably exciting. I think it's great for the game of baseball. The biggest question I have, and this is a problem that I guess that I just have in general and that I talk about in therapy a lot, is like I'm already thinking way too far ahead, right? Like I'm not just enjoying it in the moment. And I'm not a Pirates fan or anything of the sort, but are they going to pay him? Right? Like, what are the odds? What are the odds that the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have been one of the cheapest organizations in all of sports for my entire life, when Paul Skeens actually gets to the point where they have to give him a contract, are actually going to pay him? I don't think it's very high. But like maybe they're like, hey, this is our generational guy. We let Cole walk. We let McCutchen walk, et cetera, et cetera. They paid McCutchen a little bit, but like didn't keep him obviously throughout. They go, you know what? It's time. I don't know. Really interesting though. And for him to be a top 6 player in baseball in what will be his first true full season is pretty remarkable. So obviously an incredible talent there. The only other pitcher that is ahead of Tarik Skubal is Jacob deGrom. I'm going to say this about 2 people on this list. One is deGrom and one is Mike Trout. I would do unthinkable things to just guarantee one more. I just want one more fully healthy peak season of Jacob deGrom. Just give me one more. And I will watch all 30 to 35 starts. I will be glued to the TV. I'll buy an MLB TV. I mean, I get it every year anyway, no matter what. But that money would be worth it just for deGrom. I need it. So I'm begging. Tarik Skubal comes in ranked number 17, which is really exciting. That ranks him as the 3rd best pitcher in baseball. He's a top 20 player on the planet. That is pretty darn cool. And I think that is very, very, very reasonable. Do I think that deGrom is going to have a higher WAR this year than Tarik Skubal? I would think probably not, but that's more injury-based than talent-based. I have no clue where deGrom is at in his, at this point. He hasn't pitched in so long. The Skeens one is just, you're not going to stop the hype train there. At 33, we have Riley Green. Very exciting. Top 35 player in baseball, Riley Green. Hopefully that becomes true. Another all-star season, that would almost certainly mean. Number 36 is Alex Bregman. Just throwing that out there. Number 49, Matt Chapman, somebody who we talked about a lot the last couple of off seasons. Number 50, former Tiger Isaac Paredes, top 50 player in baseball. That stings a little bit as a position of need, stings a lot of bit. Number 56 is Mike Trout. Really? Number 56? That's sad, man. That's sad. That's sad. I'm just going to keep saying it. That's real sad. Again, copy and paste, same conversation with deGrom. Please, just one more healthy season. I want a prime Trout season for 150 plus games more than just about anything on the planet. Just give me one more for the game of baseball. Number 70, Willy Adames. Number 76 is Wyatt Langford, notably who the Tigers passed on in the most recent draft for Max Clark. And then not most recent draft, 2 drafts ago. And then number 90, Garrett Cole, which I found really, really fascinating. Not sure I disagree. Getting a little bit up there in years very quietly, but he's still a dog. He's still an ace. I'd probably have him a little bit higher, but something that I thought was noteworthy. Go check out the full list of the top 100. It's all over Twitter. Pretty easy to find. That's all I got. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back We'll be back on Friday. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch you all then, baby. Go Tigers.